In this episode, we launch Season 2 of On Deck. We talk about what I have been doing during the lockdown for the past 3 months. We also see what's in the cull pile and hear from the meeple. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of On Deck, a podcast about my tabletop gaming journey in the Philippines. If it's your first time listening in, welcome to the show. My name is Glory, and I host this podcast to help you curate your collection and find the next game you love. I also run the hobby Instagram account, The Board Gamer PH, where I review games and talk about my gaming sessions with friends. First of all, welcome to Season 2 of On Deck. Season 2, because if you're a regular listener, you'll know that I have taken a hiatus for the majority of the community quarantine. Starting from, I think the last episode I released was sometime in March. It's basically mostly because my life was in such chaos and I got burnt out very early on with the work and with the intense pressure to remain productive even during the pandemic. I'm not sure if many of you can relate to what I'm saying, but it's just so stressful when you're still trying to work because my clients, they seem to think that working from home during a pandemic means that you'll be more productive. So they've been very, very active during this whole community quarantine. So with that being said, I also haven't been able to do a lot of gaming, which is so ironic because you would probably think that I have more time, but actually I didn't. I am so very jealous. I was talking to Tonichi maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago during one of the G live streams, and he was saying that he actually got a lot of gaming time with his family during the whole community quarantine. And I'm just so jealous because I haven't been able to do that. Even though I'm stuck at home with my siblings, I can't really do that. Aside from that, another reason why I haven't been able to release an episode is because I moved to a new place during community quarantine. So initially, we were supposed to have a month to move because my lease was expiring sometime in June, latter part of June, and we were supposed to move in to a new place sometime in May. We were supposed to have one whole month, but instead, because of the community quarantine and we couldn't go out, we only had probably 2 weeks to move all of our stuff and to fix everything, transferring all the utilities, everything. Also, because we weren't allowed to hire any movers to get all of our stuff from our old condo to the new condo, we had to do it ourselves. So it was very, very stressful. As soon as they announced MECQ, we moved. The very next day or probably 2 days after that, we moved. We got all our stuff together and there was curfew pa, so it was really chaotic. But we were successful. I am now in a new place. I've been there for I think a month or just a bit over a month. It's been great. I've also been still going home to my domicile every weekend, except when I am required to report for work, because then I will have to quarantine for another 2 weeks just to make sure that I don't bring any disease home. Instead of releasing a subpar content for you guys, a subpar episode for you guys, I decided to take a break, and release some of the pressure and come back at you guys when I'm ready with a fresh aura and a new content plan. We'll get to that later. So to kick off this episode, we'll just go with the flow and talk about what feels right. And what feels right is to talk about what have I been doing. So like I mentioned, I haven't been able to do a lot of gaming, but I still got a couple of games in with my sisters and Blue. So the first game that we played was Ticket to Ride France. Ticket to Ride France and the Old West map is part of Collection Volume 6 of this very famous gateway game. Ticket to Ride, if you're not familiar, it's a set collection game for 2 to 5 players from Days of Wonder. In the game, you're basically building a train route or a couple of train routes by playing cards that you collect from a pile, which must match the train route you are building. So it must match the color of the train route you are building. You also get route objectives that give you bonuses at the end of the game if you get to complete them, or will cost you deductions if you did not get to complete them. If you've been following me on IG, you know that I do play this game quite often, and I try to play with different maps if possible. Ticket to Ride India is probably my favorite at this point because it's the tightest map and works well with 2 players. And I like the end game bonus objective there. Instead of having the longest route, you're required to have the most number of circuitous routes. So I really like that objective. So what's new in Ticket to Ride France? I've only played the France side, and basically the only thing that's new is that whenever you get a card from the pile, you also need to build the map slowly by assigning the colors of the train route, because previously almost all of the train routes will have an assigned color. But here, you will have to assign the color to a particular train route, so everything's gray. But whatever you build is now free for all of the players to complete. I really liked how this map changed the thinking required in this game. You can't just hold on to cards now because you're opening up slots within the route you're trying to complete. So before, if your strategy was to hold on to cards so that your opponents won't be able to tell where you're trying to go until you're ready to complete your whole objective, now you can't do that because you're opening up routes that you might probably need, or they're opening up routes that you might probably need. So you have to act fast and get to those train routes. People can also mess with you more by getting on the routes you just built if they think that that's where you want to go. So I think the proper strategy here is to first watch out what your opponents are getting in terms of cards so that you know whether you can have a fairly good idea whether they have that particular color that you're about to build, and also try to mix and match. You can build some of the routes that you need and some of the routes that you definitely don't need. I was expecting the game to be significantly longer since you're not only building the train route, but also the tracks themselves. But since you place the track at the same time that you collect cards, it's not that long. I thought it was about double the amount of playing time, but it's not double. I played it with 2 players, but I think the game will be more chaotic with more players. With 2, it just felt too tame. So I think next time I'll have to play it with 3 or 4 players. Overall though, I think this is still a good map and you might want to give it a try if you're on the fence. So like Ticket to Ride France, Pandemic Fall of Rome is a reskin of a very popular cooperative game. Pandemic from Z-Man Games. I've talked about Pandemic a lot, so I won't dwell on the specifics, but it's basically a co-op game wherein you are playing a team of scientists trying to find a cure for 4 viruses that are spreading all over the world. So you know why I decided to play this game, obviously. I just wanted to feel in control and try to save the world from the virus. And I decided to play Pandemic Fall of Rome because I just wanted to save Rome. Sadly, I didn't. So how is Pandemic Fall of Rome different from normal Pandemic? Instead of viruses, you're actually trying to come into an alliance or agreement with the different barbarian clans. And the way you do it is the same. You need to collect similar colored cards for each of the barbarian clan. What's different is the way you get rid of the barbarian clans on the board to avoid them from spreading. Instead of automatically removing them like in normal Pandemic, you now need to roll dice, which can remove the barbarian pieces, but also your soldiers. So you win if you are able to remove all the barbarian pieces of a particular color, or if you come into an agreement with all of the barbarian clans. You lose if decline happens a number of times, you run out of player cards, or you run out of barbarian pieces to put on the board. So very similar to normal Pandemic. This felt really different from normal Pandemic, unlike Ticket to Ride France, where it just felt like it was an extension of the normal Ticket to Ride game. This one felt a bit different. I mean, it's a significant departure. I love Pandemic, and Pandemic is probably my favorite cooperative game in its simplest form. I love Pandemic Iberia and Pandemic The Cure. This one felt really different because although the main objectives were the same, you sort of remove the pandemic strategy in your brain. First, you're protecting one particular location because if they get to sack Rome, then you lose the game. Rome, you have to defend Rome at all costs. Second, you can't just remove pieces like in Pandemic, especially when you have the medic and you can just go in and take out 3 virus cubes at one time. Here, you have to risk your troops, the soldiers that you generate or you muster to get rid of the barbarian pieces. Also, the location where the pieces are placed varies and is more prone to outbreak because it follows a path from where that barbarian clan originated. So, for example, there's a place on the north side of the board where one barbarian clan originates. Then they have to get to the next spot, and then the next spot, and then the next spot. So, if you're picturing normal pandemic, imagine even if the card says that they will have to appear on Atlanta, if there are no barbarian pieces on the card that you drew, then you'll have to go to the next adjacent space, and then the next adjacent space, and then the next adjacent space until you reach the closest space near where that barbarian clan originated. So, overall, I'm very happy I picked this up. I'm happier about this game, this re-implementation of Pandemic, more than the re-implementation of Ticket to Ride France. It's not just Pandemic, and therefore I can say that there's room for it in your collection if you really like Pandemic. A surprise hit for me during the community quarantine is the 2015 game called The Game, which is a hand management cooperative game for 1 to 5 players from NSV. In this game, each player will have a particular number of cards. On a player's turn, you will need to discard at least 2 cards on any of the 4 rows. 2 of the rows will need to be in an ascending order from 2 to 99, and the other 2 rows will need to be in a descending order from 99 to 2. The only time you can deviate from these rules is when your card, or the card that you're about to place, is exactly 10 behind if the order is ascending or 10 ahead if the order is descending. When all the cards in the draw pile are gone, you can then just place at least 1 card. So this helps you because sometimes it's so hard to place 2 cards. The game ends when all the players are able to place their cards correctly, in which case they win, or when any player cannot place the minimum number of cards required, in which case they lose. The catch of this game, though, is that the players cannot communicate what they have in their hands. They can only try to communicate which row or pile they want to reserve for their cards without giving a hint on what the number is. So sometimes there's really that debate wherein, no, I feel like my card is closer than your card, so don't reserve that one. I have to be the one to place on that pile. So if this sounds familiar, it's because it is. It reminds me so much of The Mind that I actually thought that it was by the same designer. It's not. The similarities are, first, they're both cooperative. Second, they're both hand management. Third, they both have restricted communication rules. But what sets it apart from The Mind is that you'll be able to know at some point what cards are left. The Mind will always have some level of randomness because you won't be able to deal out all 100 cards to all the players in The Mind. Here, at some point, you'll be able to count them. But to get to that point is really hard. So I really, really like this game. If not for the next game, it would probably be my favorite out of all the games I played during the community quarantine. I've really been enjoying very simple and accessible games that I can just play with anyone. You know, something that you can just bust out when you're trying to pass some time or you're unwinding after dinner. At the same time, even though it's that accessible, the game felt thinky and would make you just want to try again and again until you beat the game. You want to believe that you've thought of the secret, but in fact, we haven't beaten it without some form of cheating or any kind of rules violation. Also, The artwork in this game is just so nice and makes playing the game much more enjoyable. Actually, the first time I played this, I kept commenting on the artwork and how much I loved it. That's really what I focused on. After my second game, that's when I was like, this is quite addicting. But the first thing that hit me was the artwork. So if you're looking for another small card game that's accessible and something that you can just place in your bag so you always have a game and ready to go, I highly recommend checking out The Game from NSV. The last actual board game that I played during community quarantine is Ticket to Ride Japan. I think I've been mentioning this before. I was really so excited to get the newest map for Ticket to Ride because it had two countries I really love, Japan and Italy. So yes, I've received Ticket to Ride Volume 7. So my sisters and I decided to give it a go, and we chose to try the Japan map. What's different is that you are all building a Shinkansen line that you all can use to complete your routes. So no one really owns it, and when you build it, you use the same number of train cards as the number of spaces required. And instead of earning points, you gain spaces on the Shinkansen track. So what does the Shinkansen track do? It earns you end game bonuses or deductions depending on your place. So if you're the last place, you get -10. If you did not help at all, you get -20. So basically that's it. There are also two zoomed in parts in the map, which is new. It might be too soon to tell, but I think the Japan map has the potential to be one of my favorite maps for more than 2 players. I love the added cooperative nature of the game. It's quite new, it's fresh. What I realized was that the train routes play a really big part of the game now because of the Shinkansen line. You now have more chances to complete your route cards without having to place additional train cards because of the Shinkansen line. There's also now 2 ways to a particular route because of the Shinkansen line. One is through the regular train route and one is through the Shinkansen line. So you have more confidence in completing the far routes. Actually, what I did was I connected almost one end of the whole Japan map to the other end because of the Shinkansen line. So I wasn't getting a lot of points during the actual game because I kept on placing on the Shinkansen line. But after getting so many route cards, I was able to complete a lot of end game bonuses and I beat them by a mile. So Ticket to Ride is such a great franchise. Even until now, they are still finding new ways to make something this old feel so fresh without having to add more convoluted rules. It basically took me 10 minutes to browse through the new instruction booklet, and that's it. I didn't have to watch any video. I didn't need to do anything. I will have to say that it's more complicated getting into a new expansion of different games than getting into a whole new map of Ticket to Ride. It's that easy to get into. So I'm very excited to try the Italy side because of the area control aspect, because of the mafia. I think that's what they were coming from. I might give that a go with my sister sometime this weekend or next weekend. So aside from playing actual board games, I've also been playing some games remotely with my friends. Basically, sobrang uso nito. During the community quarantine, this was one of the hashtag quarant trends. Basically, during the first part of ECQ, some of my friends and I got together online to play some games. Whoever the loser was for that particular week would have to think of another game that we would play the following week. So it's not strictly board games. It can be a trivia game, Jeopardy style game, or whatever. But since I am the designated game master, I usually also try to assist by coming up with a game before we play the main event. So what I've tried were a tweaked style of Time's Up using the monikers, words, and points. So I grouped them into teams and I had to moderate. So I show the words to one teammate while the other person looks away. I start the clock and the most points after 3 rounds win. Kasi yung sa monikers, meron siyang designated point system for the card. So I had a 1-pointer, a 2-pointer, and a 3-pointer, and then padamihan sila ng points. Also, just one, I think Just One is a very obvious choice if you want to play remotely with your friends, especially if you are in a bigger group, because only one person needs to have the game, and everyone can just write their answers on their cell phones, on a piece of paper, wherever. You just need to look away if you're the person guessing. I also tweaked Balderdash, where we played one round each person. We gave 2 points if you get the correct answer, 1 point if you get chosen by the judge as the most probable answer, 2 points to the judge if they pick the person with the right answer, and the person with the most points after everyone has become a judge wins. So, Sheriff of Nottingham / Balderdash. But Balderdash, you don't really care about the point system. What you're really enjoying is the questions and trying to figure out if you get as close as possible. But since Balderdash really have legitimate answers, you have to make sure that your timing or your time limit is accurate or just right to prevent people from cheating. But you can just tell them, if you cheat, there's no point in joining the game, right? Shout out also to my friends for coming up with games on their own. Celine thought of a speed category game where we have to write the answer down and the first person to finish it wins. My friend Marin thought of a Jeopardy style game about our office life, and we buzzed by sending a particular emoji in our group chat. So far it's been really fun because people get to think of what games would be fun for the group, and there are different moderators. I've also run some games for G Live and my other board game group. So we've played Quinto Online, which I streamed live on GL's FB page. We also played Wavelength. I streamed that with G Live, and also I played that with my other board game group. Wavelength for me is probably the winner out of all the games that I've played, because aside from the fact that it's new, it's different. It's as long as you don't, because it can get fiddly because Wavelength is half toy, half board game. It can get fiddly, but for me, if you do it properly, if one person has a game and knows how to manipulate the toy factor, then it won't be a problem. So what have you guys been doing this ECQ, or actually this community quarantine, kasi nasa GCQ na tayo? What have you been doing to pass the time and still be social with your friends? I mean, is this important to you? What have you been doing? I know so many people are using Board Game Arena in Tabletopia nowadays. Parang there was a time na naghang siya or something. Parang nag-crash yung system niya, yung server niya, because everyone was like on Board Game Arena. But how about you guys? How do you connect with your non-gaming friends or your friends who wouldn't really initiate board games on their own? I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't know Board Game Arena or Tabletopia. So how have you been able to incorporate board games in your e-Newman sessions? So let me know by getting in touch with me through the usual channels, Instagram at The Board Gamer PH or Facebook at On Deck with The Board Gamer PH. Next, we'll talk about what's in the call pile. So, Roll Through the Ages is a civilization dice rolling game for 2 to 4 players from Eagle Griffin Games. If you would check my rating for Roll Through the Ages under my BGG account, you'd see that I rated it an 8. And I have mentioned it numerous times in this podcast as what I believe is the granddaddy of roll and write games, a genre I absolutely love. In this game, players take turns rolling dice to obtain workers, goods, and food. The number of workers they obtain during the round are used to build infrastructure and monuments. Infrastructure gives players additional dice to roll, while monuments give them points at the end of the game. Goods are used to build developments to give players special powers like agriculture, meaning you get extra food. And food naman is used to feed the players cities, and one city needs 3 food. The dice that you roll represent the number of cities that you have, so you can increase that. Of course, everything is marked on a piece of paper kasi nga roll and write siya, diba? Except for your goods. Your goods are tracked by a wooden marker with pegs on it. So that's the only deviation to the usual roll and write games nowadays. Once all the monuments have been built or 5 developments have been achieved by a player, the game ends and the player with the most points wins. Like I mentioned earlier, I really do enjoy this game. So much so that I have played it to death. There's so many roll and rides that I think were influenced by this game, but there are also those that I think have surpassed it. Well, at least in my opinion. Example would be Imperial Settlers Roll and Write, which is a game I would prefer to play now over this. So before Imperial Settlers Roll and Write, this was my go-to roll and write game if I wanted a little more theme in it, even though I had Welcome to and some of the other roll and writes that, well, I haven't actually played. This one, since civilization building din siya, I decided I think it was time for Imperial Settlers to take that throne, and there was really no point in keeping both in my collection. I also got Era, which is by the same designer, which took the game to a whole new level, at least according to what I've been hearing about the game. So there was really no point in keeping Roll Through the Ages. I would rather pass it on to someone who's just getting into roll and write games and would enjoy this game as much as I did. Plus it's roll and write, so definitely it's evergreen. You can just pass it on and pass it on and pass it on by just laminating more sheets. So that's what's in my call pile. Let me know how you guys think of Roll Through the Ages. Is it something that you got and have passed it on as well? Or is it something that you want to get for yourself? I think it's still available in some of the stores. It's not widely available like the other roll and rights because it's quite of an older game. But yeah, let me know if you haven't tried it and want to give it a try. Finally, let's go and hear from the meeple. So I asked the meeples, what are you guys thinking of doing during community quarantine that is not board gaming related? Or not directly, not just playing board games, because I thought at the time that I made that podcast was that it was a given. I mean, of course, what else are you going to be doing but gaming, right? No, not for me. So I asked them, what are the things that you are thinking of doing but it's not really board gaming? So for me, I said I wanted to build some of my folded spaces inserts, for example. I wanted to curate my collection and expand my call pile and see what else I can pass on. I have built a couple of my folded spaces inserts. I think I did the one for Scythe Fenris, I think Terraforming Mars, and Blood Rage. So I've built those folded spaces inserts and I really, really love folded spaces inserts. It takes a while to build it up because I really want to glue everything to make sure that they don't fall apart. So it takes a while and you need to leave them overnight. But for me, it's worth it because it doesn't add a lot of weight to the game box. And also, it's cheaper than, what's the other one? Broken Token. It's cheaper than the Broken Token insert. So I'm going to be doing a video-ish podcast of my favorite board game accessories, and definitely think that folded spaces inserts will be in that list. So here's some of the feedback I got. Jason said, well, he quoted me when I said Maricondo your games. He said, kidding aside, can we talk about how do you teach rules to your non-gamer friends? I'm having difficulty teaching because sometimes I don't know how to make the terms in layman's terms. Minsan kasi feeling ko di ko na alam paano ko pa babaguhin yung mga jargons na akala ko ayun na talaga pinaka-basic na example. I said this is a good idea. Sounds like a good topic I can discuss with some of the G-Life peeps. We actually did a stream about board games and education. Well, it's not really about teaching them the games. Well, it was a bit, but we talked to Mikey Cuento, who's an educator who tries to incorporate board games into his, I guess, lesson plans. You can check that out in the Gaming Library Facebook page. But I think I get what you want, Jason. I think I understand what you want to talk about. And I think it's a very good topic for a podcast. So watch out for that, Jason. I might do it for the next podcast. Archie said, Maybe continue painting minis for some of my games and some organizing to keep the dust off the boxes. I think that's a very good idea. If I was into painting minis, I would have probably also done that. Well, medyo pareho. Hindi siya pareho. But pinipaint ko rin yung glue dun sa folded spaces inserts ko. But I see a lot of people painting their minis during the community quarantine, and good for you guys. You were finally able to find the time. I know sometimes it can get tedious. Yeah, I'm really happy that you guys found the time to paint your minis. I wanted to get into that, but I have too many hobbies. Hindi ko na yata kaya mag-take on ng another one. Tonichi said, play through my 10 by 10, an offshoot of Gaming with Family since they're my gaming group. Shameless plug. And then, go to Tonichi's Facebook page, guys. Mas marami siyang posts sa akin during the community quarantine. Because, like I mentioned earlier, he was able to play a lot of games. So, go to his Facebook page, Tabletop to Go. He was also a guest on the G Live stream. We talked about gaming with family, so check that out as well. He said that I realized that I'm fortunate to be able to do this. Other than that, I keep tabs on interesting discussions on BGG and the Reddit board game subgroup in case there's anything I can contribute to. Oh, and upload gaming session photos for those precious geek gold. I think I need to check that out. I mean, I haven't really been uploading anything on Board Game Geek, but my collection in Board Game Geek is very, very updated because it's my way to inventory my games. So I have an inventory, an Excel file that inventories all my pre-orders, all of my stuff, or all of my call pile, and even my rankings. Everything, my actual Board Game Geek ranking is in my Board Game Geek account, but I haven't really contributed anything content related. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll start some blog posts there. So Tonichi, thank you for your comment. I'm happy that you were able to get a lot of gaming during the community quarantine. I hope to be able to game with you sometime in the future after all this is done. From Instagram, I also got some comments. Ria said, solo gaming. Yes, I think a lot of people have been doing a lot of solo gaming lately. And I think it's good, especially if you have some of those escape games like Exit or Unlock or Deckscape. I think it'll be good to do this on your own, do some puzzly stuff. Also, if you have Stonemaier games, they have really good solo versions of their games. So she mentioned here Detective, Wingspan, and Marvel Champions. Who is David King said, Subterra and the Quest for El Dorado for light family gaming sessions. And Poop's Thoughts said Risk. So maybe that's Risk Legacy. So maybe Poop's Thoughts got some legacy gaming done. And I'm happy for you, Poop's Thoughts, if you were able to do that. Now, before we end this show, I just wanted to explain why I mentioned that this was some sort of season 2 for this podcast. I basically just want to make it more free form from time to time. We'll still be doing a full-blown show like this one most of the time, but we'll also be inserting some shorter podcasts that can be video podcasts as well. Exciting! So make sure you follow me on the channels available. That's at the Board Gamer PH on Instagram and on Deck's Facebook page in Facebook. If you do and you comment hashtag on Deck Season 2 on any of my posts, you can get a chance to get your own copy of Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. Giveaway alert! So syempre wala akong pasabi na may giveaway. But yes, I am giving away one copy of Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza from Blue Orange, which I have been playing endlessly, not just during the community quarantine, but even before that. It's a great, great game that I was able to try out with when Hans brought it back from, I think, Germany. So we were playing the French version at the time. It received stellar reviews on Amazon because I wanted to get it so much because it wasn't going to get here until sometime in March. So I couldn't wait until then. And I wanted to get it from Amazon. It had 5-star reviews from 1,000 something reviewers. But I said, but the gaming library is going to get it, so I might as well wait for it. I'll sleep on it. And then when I woke up, it was sold out. So that's a testament to how great this game really is. It has gone well with all of the groups I've played with, and is probably one of the best mini games I've played this year. So I purchased an extra copy from Gaming Library that I wanted to share to anyone who I think would really enjoy it, and I'm sharing it with one of you guys. So recap, follow the Board Gamer PH on IG and FB, comment hashtag on deck season 2 on any of the posts in either, and get a chance to win a copy of Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. I'm going to run this giveaway for maybe a week or 2 weeks. I'll announce it. Or maybe I won't. No promises. But I will run it for at least a week. And then I'll announce it on my next show. And that is going to wrap up another episode. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. If you like this episode and the show, please do share it to someone you think will like it too, and subscribe to us in whatever podcatcher you are using, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Overcast. And if you have been with us since episode 1, a review would always be appreciated. You can post a review in Apple Podcasts or even in Facebook. So stay safe, everyone. I'll catch you guys again next time. Happy gaming!